Li, gasping for breath, finally reached a safe place after escaping from the hero who had threatened her by absorbing her lifespan. Frustration surged through her as she slammed her hand against the wall, sweat dripping from her face. With an angry expression, she muttered to herself that the shadow had not only rejected her terms, but had also dared to threaten her. She vowed that once she returned to reality, she would drag him out and kill him. Suddenly, a man emerged from the alley and greeted her with a sly grin. He introduced himself as Mao Lijun but insisted that she could call him Lao Mao. With a confident smirk, he reminded her of the 10 million offer and inquired if it still stood. He then claimed to have knowledge of valuable leveling up tips, emphasizing that he had reached level 2. Li crossed her arms and asked him to elaborate on these tips. Mao Lijun, maintaining his slight smile, assured her that he did not usually share such information, but since it was her, he would make an exception. To demonstrate his sincerity, he explained that in the current situation, all 5 initial attribute points must be allocated to agility for optimal leveling. He elaborated further, stating that by doing so, their running speed would surpass that of the crawlers, making survival and advancement much easier. Hearing this, a look of surprise flashed across Zhang Li's face. She muttered to herself in realization, now understanding the mechanics of the game. Frustration followed immediately as she recalled that she had already allocated her initial 5 attribute points to strength. Nevertheless, she acknowledged Mao Lijun's expertise and decided to accept his guidance. She instructed him to take her to level up, reassuring herself that it was beneficial to have someone knowledgeable by her side. With a confident expression, she added that he was not as strong as Shadow, so she could not offer him the full 10 million. Instead, she proposed 5 million and asked if he would accept it. Her condition was that he had to take her to level 3, after which she would pay him in reality. Without hesitation, Mao Lijun accepted the deal, commenting that although Shadow was powerful, he seemed to lack intelligence. He found it foolish that Shadow had turned down such an easy 10 million. Meanwhile, the hero stood on a tree branch, his invisibility skill activated. His sharp gaze locked onto the massive monster below, observing the swirling gray mist around its body. He muttered to himself that, as expected, the boss had already advanced to the silver level and was still progressing. Summoning his power, the hero formed a deadly poison dart and assessed the situation. He noted that the transition from silver to gold would take at least 7 or 8 hours, and he had no intention of waiting idly. With precise aim, he activated his skill, Shattering Strike, and launched the dart at the monster, striking one of its eyes. The creature let out a pained roar as green blood gushed from the wound, its lifespan decreasing by -219 every second. Without wasting time, the hero activated his shadow stealth ability to conceal his presence. He analyzed that a silver tier boss had 2 to 3 times the health of a bronze tier boss. At that moment, the monster began charging its energy, shaping it into a destructive ball. However, unable to locate its attacker, it unleashed a barrage of energy beams in all directions. The hero swiftly dodged the attack with fluid movements, muttering to himself that only 2 or 3 more deadly poison darts would be needed to finish the job. As the monster's assault ceased, he studied its patterns carefully. He recognized that the cursor was a magic-type boss, specializing in high-damage area of effect attacks. He knew that after throwing the deadly poison darts, he had barely escaped the monster's attack range in time. Contemplating his next move, he acknowledged that if he were to get hit with his current health and defense, it would mean certain death. The monster unleashed its ranged attack once again, blasting everything in its path. Dodging the energy beams with precise movements, the hero muttered to himself that he needed to wait for Shadow Stealth's cooldown to finish. He planned to strike during the boss's moment of weakness and then immediately go invisible to escape its attack range. Observing the monster's body trembling, the hero swiftly formed a deadly poison dart in his hand and dashed toward it with great speed. He determined that now was the time to attack. Activating his skill, Shattering Strike, he slashed the monster's face, dealing significant damage of -659 HP. With the poison's effect, the monster's HP continued to decrease by -219 every second. Realizing its imminent demise, the cursor began fleeing as if running from the grim Reaper himself. Seeing this, the hero noted that the boss's health was nearly depleted and that it had begun to escape. He found this preferable to the monster struggling before its inevitable death. Without hesitation, he pursued it. As he closed the distance, he leaped into the air, using the momentum of his fall to amplify his strike, aiming to finish the cursor in a single thrust. At that moment, a notification panel appeared. You have killed the cursor, silver level. You have gained 1,800 experience points. Congratulations, you have reached level 5. Congratulations, you have earned 4 evolution points. You have gained 124 days of lifespan, tradable. Satisfied with his rewards, the hero remarked that he had even leveled up twice and received 4 evolution points. Following this, he activated his skill, Hand of Greed. Instantly, another notification appeared. Skill, Hand of Greed successfully activated. You have gained 4 evolution points times 2. You have gained 124 days of lifespan, tradable times 2. Surprised by the outcome, the hero absorbed the monster's lifespan and noted that he had received double the rewards. He exclaimed that the silver tier boss had provided him with a total of 12 evolution points and 372 days of tradable lifespan. Moments later, another screen panel materialized. You have triggered the extra effect of Hand of Greed, and one of your loot items has been upgraded from silver level to gold level. Noticing the golden glow of the upgraded equipment among the 7 other blue tier items, the hero marveled at the loot. He acknowledged that this was indeed something that typically dropped at the gold level. He praised the emerald tier Hand of Greed skill, noting that it had a 20% chance of upgrading extra loot by 1 tier. Sitting on the ground, he contemplated his current predicament. He had obtained 7 or 8 pieces of equipment, but his backpack only had 10 slots. He mused that he couldn't just kill one boss and return every time, as that would be inefficient. He hoped that the cursor had dropped a storage ring or something similar to expand his inventory space. As he examined the golden equipment, he remained in awe of his fortune. Meanwhile, in Shell Town, a red-haired woman sighed in relief and expressed her gratitude for making it back alive. A gray-haired man turned to their leader and acknowledged that thanks to boss Wong Ming, they had managed to reach level 3 and return to the city without any issues. The red-haired woman enthusiastically raised her fist and affirmed that brother Wong Ming was indeed strong. The team leader, a man with black hair, responded with a calm expression, attributing their success to the combined efforts of the entire team. With a charming expression, the red-haired woman sighed, lamenting that she hadn't added that big guy as a friend when she had the chance. She speculated that perhaps it was because she had been covered in mud at the time, and the boss had found her appearance unappealing. The man standing in front of her, captivated by her beauty, suggested that with her new outfit, the expert might be more inclined to accept her friend request. Suddenly, a leaderboard screen appeared, displaying that Shadow had reached level 5. The revelation left everyone in shock. A man with brown hair exclaimed in disbelief, questioning whether Shadow had just jumped straight from level 3 to level 5. He speculated that the expert must have slain a powerful boss. Beside him, a bald man noted that only 10 minutes earlier, he had seen an expert selling gear, yet now that same expert had already gained 2 levels at an incredible speed. Another man with a prominent nose chimed in, remarking that his younger sister was 18 and expressing hope that the expert might take a liking to her, allowing him to benefit by having her help him level up. However, someone scoffed at the idea, reminding him that if the expert had ignored a $10 million offer, he certainly wouldn't care about his sister. Amidst the ongoing discussion, one of Wong Ming's team members wore an anxious expression and voiced his concern. He noted that while they had just reached level 3, the expert had already advanced to level 5, leaving them no time to catch their breath. Wong Ming gathered his team members and instructed them not to dwell on the expert's progress. Instead, he urged them to focus on returning to reality to warn their families and friends about the dire situation regarding the game. He explained that the world was likely on the verge of chaos. At the very least, they needed to prepare their loved ones. With that, he commanded them to exit the game. Following his lead, the team clicked the exit button, and their bodies began to fade from the game world. Upon awakening, Wong Ming felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. Suddenly, a voice rang out in excitement, announcing that Brother Wong had awakened. Another person, equally shocked, urged someone to alert the captain. A subordinate with black hair rushed to his side, his face filled with concern. He anxiously asked Wong Ming how he was feeling, admitting that they had all been extremely worried. He added that Wong Ming had looked half-transparent just moments ago. Another subordinate, tears welling in his eyes, pleaded with Wong Ming not to scare them like that. He reminded him that he had advised him to rest the previous day and had even offered to keep watch on the suspect in his stead. Wong Ming, however, had no time to explain everything to them. He quickly gave an urgent order, commanding them to gather everyone immediately. Something big had happened, and there was no time to waste. At the police station, the head of the department inquired whether what Officer Wong Ming had reported was true. He recalled Wong Ming's previous statement about forming a team of hidden class players who had nearly been wiped out, only to be saved by someone. Wong Ming replied calmly, affirming that his statement was accurate. He explained that the person who had saved them was called Shiau. When Shiau had intervened, he had only been at level 3. However, by the time Wong Ming and his team reached level 3, Shiau had already advanced to level 5, gaining 2 levels in one go. Upon hearing this, the head of the department furrowed his brows and voiced his concern, noting that if Shiau had already reached level 5, he could potentially be the strongest player in the world. He then questioned how such rapid progression was possible. Wong Ming speculated that Shiau might have defeated a powerful boss or something similar to achieve such a feat. Just then, an officer with short hair interjected, pointing out that based on Wong Ming's statement, Shiau had already reached level 3 an hour ago. The officer then posed the question of why Shiau had not returned to reality, suggesting that perhaps he had no close relatives to notify in the real world. Wong Ming responded calmly, stating that he was unsure and that it was possible Shiau truly had no family. Amid the conversation, a beautiful lady, appearing deep in thought, speculated aloud whether Shiau could be a transmigrator. She remarked that transmigrators were often orphans who tended to become exceptionally strong at an astonishing pace. With a playful expression, she asked the group if she was right. Her superior, however, responded with a serious expression, addressing her directly. He reprimanded her, calling her by name, Anyu, and reminded her that he had advised her to read fewer novels. He insisted that such jokes had no place in a serious discussion. Turning back to the gathered officers, the general continued, stating that the information Wong Ming had provided from the Forsaken game aligned with intelligence gathered from higher authorities. He revealed that recent research indicated some elderly individuals had died shortly after falling asleep. After analyzing and comparing the data with employees who had returned to reality, it had become evident that those individuals had perished multiple times in the game before passing away in real life. This, he concluded, meant that if a player's lifespan reached 0 in the game, they would die permanently in reality. Just then, the head of the department, wearing a look of discontent, expressed his concerns. He stated that this phenomenon was an abnormality beyond their understanding. The general acknowledged this sentiment, agreeing that they were most likely dealing with an invasion by unknown higher beings. Raising his voice so that it echoed through the enclosed room, he announced that the higher-ups had issued an emergency directive. The Vanguard team was to be deployed to explore the Forsaken game and gather intelligence based on their location. He emphasized the urgency of forming a highly professional army to handle the situation, as this was a global crisis. He further stressed that every nation was currently engaged in efforts to investigate the Forsaken game. Falling behind in this endeavor would mean losing authority on the world stage, making it imperative to obtain crucial information at all costs. Turning to Anyu, he assigned her as the captain of Team 1 and appointed Wong Ming as the vice-captain. He instructed them to choose their own teammates accordingly. Upon receiving their orders, both Anyu and Wong Ming responded in unison, affirming their understanding and acceptance of the mission. The general then stated that, based on Wong Ming's description, Shiau seemed like someone they could try to befriend. He explained that he had appointed Anyu as the leader because he believed her disposition was best suited for investigating Shadow. He urged her to do everything possible to uncover Shadow's true identity. Ideally, he added, they should aim to represent the government and establish cooperation with Shadow to gain access to the valuable information he possessed. Concluding the meeting, he reminded everyone that the most critical task at this stage was to maintain social stability. He asked for confirmation that his orders were understood. Both Wong Ming and Anyu promptly responded with a firm acknowledgement, assuring him that they fully understood the mission and its significance. Meanwhile, at the school, a group of students was engaged in a discussion about the Forsaken game. A girl with purple hair mentioned that Zhang Wei had said people in the same area who fell asleep simultaneously would appear in the same starting town. The girl beside her, shocked by this revelation, expressed her concern. She exclaimed that she could not afford to stay there and needed to go home immediately to take care of her parents. She worried that since they had never played video games before, they might struggle to adapt to the game's mechanics. A black-haired girl, looking anxious, advised her not to take too many risks. She suggested that they should first develop themselves in the game before going back to help their parents. With a thoughtful expression, Qin Xiaoyu held her phone and voiced her frustration. She wondered why Ching Fong had not shown any sign of life despite such a significant event taking place. She lamented that he still had not come to apologize to her and questioned whether his ego was truly that big. As she recalled past events, she noted that whenever she had been angry before, Ching Fong had always found a way to calm her down. However, today was different. He had not only failed to appease her, but he had even hit her. With an indignant expression, she added that even her parents had never laid a hand on her. Her anger flared as she continued, insisting that all she had done was skip class to attend Brother Song Fei's concert. She declared that unless Ching Fong apologized 1,000 times, she would never forgive him. Her expression then shifted to one of longing as she reminisced about the concert. She admitted to herself that at least she had been able to see Brother Song Fei in person. Otherwise, with the emergence of the Forsaken game, she feared she might never get another chance. As she recalled Song Fei's captivating presence and the way he had flirted with the audience, her expression grew more enamored. Lost in her daydream, she suddenly came to a realization and spoke aloud. If people entered the game when they fell asleep, then Brother Song Fei must also be inside. Determined, she resolved to enter the game and look for him. Recalling that Zhang Wei had reached level 3 so quickly, she concluded that he must be an expert. She decided to seek his guidance and quickly changed her clothes before picking up her phone. She sent him a message, addressing him as Great Master Zhang Wei, and asking if he had any advice to share. Zhang Wei, initially surprised by her message, soon felt elated. He muttered to himself that even a beautiful lady like Qin Xiaoyu had come to seek his advice. Surely, this was an opportunity sent from heaven. Excited, he quickly responded, telling her she had asked the right person. He revealed a secret to her, advising that when she entered the game, she should allocate all her initial attribute points to agility. Otherwise, she would not be fast enough, and the monsters would overpower her. Qin Xiaoyu, reading his response, quickly followed up with another question. She asked if she should still prioritize agility even if she chose a magic class. Zhang Wei assured her that agility was not entirely useless for magic classes, explaining that it could enhance spellcasting speed, which was particularly crucial in the early stages of the game. Still curious, Qin Xiaoyu posed another question. She asked what she should do if she invested in agility but still found herself unable to win. Zhang Wei reassured her, telling her not to worry. He explained that once someone in the starting town reached level 5, they would be able to activate the town's teleportation portal. He encouraged her to find a group to level up with, and when the portal was ready, he promised to come and get her. Upon reading his response, Qin Xiaoyu was overjoyed. Lying on her bed, she muttered to herself in excitement, marveling at how useful her fan connections had turned out to be. She felt triumphant, knowing she had quickly found someone willing to help her. With newfound determination, she scoffed at the thought of Ching Fong, believing she had given him too much credit. She declared that she would enter the game immediately and let him keep up his arrogant attitude. By the time he entered the game, she was confident she would be many levels ahead of him, and by then, she would no longer care about him at all. Meanwhile, the hero was still examining the items on the ground that he had obtained from defeating the cursor. Just then, a system notification appeared, displaying Cursed Ring, Gold. Universal for all classes. All attributes +8. Dark Element Resistance +26. Weakness Attack Multiplier +0.1. Equipment Requirement. Level 4. Looking at the ring, the hero analyzed its benefits. He noted that the +8 increase in each attribute equated to a total of 32 attribute points, the same amount others would gain over 3 levels. Additionally, the dark resistance would be useful against many monsters, and the weak point damage multiplier, initially 1.5 times, would increase to 1.6 times, which was a decent boost. Following this, another system panel manifested. Instant Cut, Silver. Assassin Class Ability. Dash in a direction, up to 15 meters, and enter an invisible state, lasting 5 seconds, dealing 3 slashes to all enemies in your path. Cooldown. 12, 10.43 seconds. Cut width, 2.1 meters. Each slash adds 100 points of damage, always considered a back attack, but cannot inflict weak point damage. Learning Requirement. Level 4. Activating his skill, the hero commented on its power, noting that it was a very effective area damage ability, combining dashing and invisibility. Without hesitation, he decided to learn it immediately. After that, he recalled that he still had some evolution points left and chose to evolve the greedy hand first. Once completed, another notification appeared. You have consumed 8 evolution points. Remaining 4 points. A more detailed information panel followed. Greedy Hand, Emerald to Diamond, Assassin type skill. Can be used on monster corpses with a 160% to 220% chance to gain an additional loot reward. The extra loot obtained has a 20% to 40% chance to increase by 1 grade. Feeling the surge of power in his hand, the hero exclaimed that, as expected, his loot drops would now be significantly higher. With this ability, every monster he killed would yield rewards equivalent to those of 3 kills. Since he still had 4 evolution points remaining, he decided to level up Shadow Slash by 3 levels. After upgrading the skill, another notification popped up. You have consumed 3 evolution points, remaining 1 point. Following this, an upgraded description of Instant Cut appeared. Instant Cut, Silver to Gold to Platinum. Dash in a direction, maximum distance, 15, 18, 21 meters. Enter a stealth state, lasting 5, 6, 7 seconds. Deal 3, 4, 5 slashes to all enemies in your path. Cooldown. 12, 10.43 seconds. Cut width, 2.12.63.1 meters. Each slash adds 100, 150, 200 points of damage. The hero scrutinized the details and noted that the cooldown had not reduced, which he found somewhat frustrating. However, with Instant Cut alone, he could maintain invisibility indefinitely. He dismissed the rest of the loot as unimportant, except for a silver-level warrior skill book, Battle Cry, which he considered selling for some money. Suddenly, 3 monsters attacked him from above. Reacting swiftly, the hero activated his stealth skill and identified them as assembled crawlers, level 4. Seeing an opportunity, he decided to test the power of Instant Cut. In an instant, moving at lightning speed, he unleashed his new skill, Instant Cut, to slash through the crawlers. Blood scattered everywhere as their bodies were ripped apart. A system notification followed. You have killed Assembled Crawler, level 4. You have gained 80 experience points. You have obtained 5 days of tradable lifespan. Covered in shadow, the hero remarked that his efficiency in killing monsters had improved once again. If he had used poison darts, he would have needed at least 2 attacks per monster. The shorter the combat time, the lower the risk of an accident occurring. Checking his status, he realized he had accumulated 618 days of tradable lifespan. However, he needed at least 900 days, equivalent to 2.5 years, to extract equipment and skills into the real world. Determined, he decided to return once more, sell what he had in his backpack, and gather enough tradable lifespan to meet the minimum requirement for extraction. He concluded that once he reached level 10, he would finally be able to bring his skills and equipment from the game into reality. In a dense forest under a steady downpour, the sound of raindrops hitting leaves fills the air. The protagonist moves cautiously along the muddy path, the hood of their cloak pulled over their head. Suddenly, voices echo through the trees. The hero heard a conversation between two individuals and instinctively turned his head to see who they were. Upon closer inspection, he recognized them as Zhang Li and Mao Lijun. At that moment, Mao Lijun congratulated Zhang Li, acknowledging that she had leveled up to level 3. With a smile, he reminded her of a promise she had made. Zhang Li reassured him, stating that he need not worry. She questioned whether he truly believed that the Dajang family would care about such a trivial sum of money. She instructed him to contact her directly and added that she would be heading to the real world immediately. Before leaving, she requested that he transfer the tradable lifespan he possessed, offering him 10,000 per day of lifespan in exchange. With a satisfied smile, Mao Lijun assured her that it would not be a problem. He then remarked that Shadow had been foolish to underestimate someone as influential as Zhang Li. As Zhang Li prepared to leave, Mao Lijun muttered under his breath, considering how insignificant the effect of the game on lifespan was. He believed he could easily farm lifespan and prided himself on being a genius for converting gaming abilities into real money. Upon reaching the location of the portal, the hero activated it by placing his hand on its surface, announcing that the teleportation formation in Shell Town had been successfully activated. A notification appeared before him, informing him that he had earned 1 reputation point and could teleport once daily for free. Subsequent teleportations, however, would consume tradable lifespan. The notification further stated that no other activated teleportation formations in Zhanghai City had been discovered. Reflecting on this, the hero noted that a two-way teleportation system was necessary for seamless travel. Without someone reaching level 5 and activating another teleportation formation, this would remain useless. He recalled that, in his previous life, Song Fei had been in Firefly Town. With that in mind, he decided to set up an alert that would notify him immediately when someone activated Firefly Town's teleportation formation. The hero began walking through the town streets, muttering to himself that teleportation between towns was not the main concern. His ultimate goal was to reach level 10 and enter the god's abandoned realm, where the true essence of the Forsaken game would begin. As he arrived at the town square, he noticed a large gathering of players. Without hesitation, he retrieved numerous pieces of equipment from his inventory and placed them up for sale, but only for a limited time. Recognizing him immediately, the gathered players erupted into murmurs of disbelief and excitement. One player gasped in awe, exclaiming that the legendary expert, Shadow, had returned. Another revealed that they had saved 150 days of lifespan in anticipation of Shadow's next sale. A third player excitedly recounted how Shadow had previously sold the icicle spell, which had allowed Grey Rose to ascend to second place in the rankings. Another player pointed at one of the items, their eyes widening as they noticed a silver-level skill book titled Battle Cry, designed specifically for warriors. One of the players stepped forward, excitement gleaming in his eyes, and eagerly announced that he would take the Battle Cry skill book. After the hero completed the transaction, a notification appeared, confirming the exchange. Transaction successful. You have received 300 days of tradable lifespan. Following this, a man with a mustache exclaimed in disbelief, questioning whether spending 300 days of lifespan on a single skill book was worth it. The player beside him scoffed, dismissing his skepticism as short-sightedness. He explained that with the Battle Cry skill, a warrior's efficiency in farming monsters would multiply several times over. The 300 days of lifespan could be recovered in less than 2 days. As the realization set in, the rest of the players rushed toward the hero, eager to purchase the remaining items. Checking his system screen, the hero muttered to himself, noting that he had sold everything within a single minute. The system displayed that he had earned a total of 650 days of tradable lifespan, bringing his total to 2,174 days. However, he knew it still wasn't enough. His ultimate goal was to bring his living attributes, profession, and equipment into reality, but he was still far from achieving that dream. Just as the hero prepares to leave, a strikingly beautiful woman from Wong Ming's team approaches him. With a confident smile, she addressed him directly, stating that she had a valuable treasure and wanted to know if he was interested in acquiring it. As she raised her hand, a system notification provided detailed information about the ring she held. Space ring contains inventory slots. Does not occupy a ring or backpack equipment slot. Upon reading the description, the hero was momentarily stunned. A space ring? This was a highly coveted special storage item. Its true value lay in the fact that it did not take up any of the limited ring or backpack slots. Each player could carry a maximum of only 3 storage backpacks, making such an item invaluable. Although theoretically any monster could drop it, the drop rate was incredibly low. The fact that this woman had obtained one so early in the game was nothing short of extraordinary. Composing himself, the hero asked her how much she was selling it for. In his mind, he recalled that in the past, a 12-slot space ring like this had been worth at least 3,600 days of lifespan. To his surprise, the woman responded with a warm smile, stating that she did not want his lifespan in exchange. Instead, she had only one request: to add him as a friend and form a party to help them defeat a boss. Without hesitation, the hero accepted her proposal and added her to his friend list. The hero, now intrigued, turns to the woman and inquires about the boss they need to defeat. The woman explained that the boss was a gold-tier creature. Curious, the hero asked for its name. The red-haired woman admitted that she had not been able to see it clearly, as it had been too far away. However, she described it as a tattered boat floating in a swamp. Hearing this, the hero's expression grew thoughtful. He muttered to himself, processing the information. A tattered boat? Could it be the Golden Ghost Ship? The Golden Ghost Ship was an extremely rare special boss. It had no fixed level and could appear at any stage of the game. Its spawn rate was incredibly low, and it dropped unique and highly valuable special equipment. Every time the Golden Ghost Ship appeared, fierce battles would break out among the major guilds, each vying for the chance to claim its treasures. If a Golden Ghost Ship had appeared in town, it was likely to be a level 5 version. This tier of the boss was the easiest to defeat compared to its later iterations. The combination of encountering such a rare boss, obtaining a storage ring, and the fact that the woman was a member of Wong Ming's party. These coincidences felt too perfectly aligned. As they continue their journey, the hero glances at the woman beside him, deep in thought. He mutters to himself, wondering if she could be the rumored koi fish from his past life. Wanting to confirm his suspicion, he asks her how she managed to find the gold-tier boss. The red-haired woman places a finger on her chin, trying to recall the events. She explains that after finishing her meal offline, she quickly logged back into the game to level up with her party. However, her teammates were progressing at a frustratingly slow pace. Having nothing else to do, she decided to take a casual stroll around and unexpectedly stumbled upon the gold-tier boss below a cliff. Hearing this, the hero studies her with a newfound sense of curiosity. In his past life, rumors had circulated that Wong Ming's party had a member with a koi fish physique, a player who could randomly encounter rare bosses, treasure chests, underground ruins, and hidden temples simply by wandering aimlessly. At first, he had dismissed it as mere misinformation meant to mislead competitors. However, standing beside this woman now, he realizes that the rumors might have been true all along. Noticing the hero's intense gaze, the red-haired woman feels slightly embarrassed and questions him, asking why he is looking at her that way. The hero quickly shakes his head and dismisses her concerns, saying it's nothing. As they continue walking toward the forest, unbeknownst to them, a shadowy figure lurks nearby, watching their every move. The bald man swiftly made his way back to his boss, urgency evident in his voice as he delivered his report. He informed his leader that the target had just left town with the gear. Upon hearing this, a sinister smile crept onto the boss's face as he sneered, remarking that he had expected such a move. He noted that the young brat couldn't resist showing off and had even brought a girl along. Turning to his men with authority in his tone, he commanded them to move, declaring that the gear would soon be theirs. Unaware of the lurking danger, the hero and the red-haired woman discussed their upcoming battle strategy. The hero stated matter-of-factly that if the boss dropped any equipment or skill books she could use, he would give them to her, while the rest would belong to him. He then asked if she agreed to this arrangement. Momentarily taken aback, the red-haired girl tilted her head and questioned what would happen with Captain Wong Ming and the others. The hero responded logically, explaining that since her party consisted of various classes, if the boss did not drop anything beneficial for an assassin like him, his efforts would be wasted. Understanding his reasoning, the woman nodded in agreement. However, she quickly followed up with a playful request. Smiling, she asked if he could sell any equipment useful for Captain Wong Ming and the rest at a discount. Maintaining his calm demeanor, the hero assured her that it would not be a problem. Pleased with his response, the red-haired girl smiled brightly and suggested waiting for Captain Wong Ming to come online before setting off. She then asked him where they were headed. Without hesitation, the hero informed her that they were going to find the gold-tier boss. Hearing this, the red-haired girl suddenly froze, her face turning pale. Her body trembled as she stammered that since he was an assassin, he could turn invisible, but as a mage, she had no such ability. She feared that if the boss attacked her, she would not survive even a single hit. The hero reassured her with unwavering confidence, stating that he alone would be enough to handle the fight and that she could simply watch from a safe distance. The red-haired girl gasped in disbelief, her thoughts racing. The idea of a single person taking down a gold-tier boss seemed absurd. Although she knew the expert was incredibly strong, she muttered to herself in shock, struggling to comprehend the sheer audacity of his claim. Suddenly, the hero activated his stealth skill, vanishing from the red-haired woman's sight. Panicked, she called out, asking where he had gone. Meanwhile, the team that had been secretly tailing them remained hidden, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. One of the team members turned to his boss and nervously reported that Shadow had disappeared. The boss, unfazed, smirked with a sinister gleam in his eyes and confidently assumed that the hero had tricked the girl and abandoned her in the wild. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity, he ordered his teammates to move in and capture the girl, suggesting they could have some fun with her first. He chuckled, boasting that following him ensured a good life, and as proof, women were already coming their way. Just then, before they could make their move, the hero reappeared in front of them. Without hesitation, he unleashed his skill Instant Shadow Slash, cutting through the entire group in a blur of lethal precision. Within moments, all the enemies were torn apart, their bodies disintegrating into the game system. A notification appeared before the hero. You have killed 5 players and received 12 tradable lifespan in total. Glancing at the fading remains of his fallen enemies, the hero scoffed, remarking that they were so weak it felt like taking down low-level mobs. After eliminating the threat, the hero reappeared beside the red-haired woman. Still visibly shaken, she turned to him and demanded to know where he had just been. Remaining calm, the hero explained that a group of people had been following them, so he had simply dealt with them and sent them back to town. As realization dawned on her, her expression shifted from concern to amusement. With a playful grin, she remarked that, at first, she had assumed he had just stepped away to relieve himself. Then, as if struck by an odd thought, she mused aloud that, since he had an invisibility skill, it must make going to the toilet incredibly convenient. He could do so anywhere without worrying about being seen. Pausing briefly, she tilted her head in contemplation before suddenly exclaiming that if something left his body, like waste, it should logically become visible again. Unwilling to entertain such an embarrassing conversation, the hero let out a sigh and promptly changed the subject. Keeping his expression neutral, he urged her to stop wasting time and lead him to the boss. When Qian Xiaoyu entered the game, She was immediately overwhelmed by the new sensations she experienced. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she clenched her fists, marveling at the realism. She couldn't believe that she could actually feel things inside the game. Two nearby players took notice of her and commented that she must be another newcomer. Qin Xiaoyu was thrilled to discover that she had obtained the hidden class, Sacrifice. She speculated that it must be incredibly powerful and thought to herself that this would definitely be worthy of her brother, Song Fei. She wondered how he was doing at that moment and whether he was aware of the secrets regarding the starting points. However, as soon as she recalled another figure, Ching Fong, her expression darkened. She muttered that he was always doting on her. Yet when it truly mattered, he proved unreliable. She scoffed, deciding that with her hidden class and Zhang Wei's promise to help her level up, Ching Fong could fend for himself. She had no intention of worrying about him anymore. Just then, her attention was drawn to the leaderboard floating mid-air. Noticing the name at the top, she was astonished to see that Shadow had already reached level 6. Comparing this to Zhang Wei, who was only level 3 yet always boasted about his strength, she realized that Shadow must be the true expert. If she could follow him, her progress would far surpass Zhang Wei's. But the real question was, where could she find this expert? As she pondered this, she noticed a team in front of her engaged in a discussion. It was Wong Ming's party. Wong Ming told his teammates that he could try to contact Lianqi Bushong, but scratching his head, he admitted that they didn't have time to wait for her. He then asked if anyone had other ideas. A long-haired man responded, pointing out that they couldn't hunt monsters without a healer. Another teammate added that, unlike the expert Shadow, they weren't capable of farming solo. He suggested they find another healer to join their party. At that moment, Qin Xiaoyu approached the team and greeted them with a smile. She asked if they needed a healer, revealing that she possessed a hidden class, Life Sacrifice. Meanwhile, at the foothill, Ching Fong and Lianqi Bushong stood observing a formidable boss from above. As he took in the sight, Ching Fong confirmed his suspicion. It was indeed the Golden Ghost Boat. Without hesitation, he instructed Lianqi Bushong to stay hidden and remain cautious of any ambushes, assuring her that he would handle the boss himself. Lianqi Bushong acknowledged his warning and urged him to be careful. The moment Ching Fong landed on the water, a system notification appeared before him. Due to the influence of the ghost boat, this area has become a violent domain. Lifespan consumption rate in this domain, 100 times the normal rate. Ching Feng's expression turned serious as he muttered to himself, calculating the effects. At 100 times the normal rate, staying in this area for just 15 minutes would be equivalent to losing an entire day of lifespan. However, he determined that a temporary violent domain like this wouldn't pose too great a threat. Following the notification, 2 additional screens materialized, displaying crucial information. Golden Ghost Boat. Level 5. Tier Gold. Special. Countdown 45 minutes and 25 seconds. With a resolute expression, Ching Fong prepared himself for the battle ahead. Upon seeing the situation, Ching Fong muttered to himself, noting that special bosses like this had a time limit. Fortunately, there were still 45 minutes remaining, more than enough time to take it down. Wasting no time, he activated his skill, Shadow Slash, striking the monster with incredible speed from multiple directions. Without pausing, he hurled his venom darts at the boss, inflicting massive damage and reducing its HP by 621 points. Then, utilizing his stealth ability, he vanished from the monster's sight. Speaking softly to himself, he analyzed the challenge before him. Eliminating the Golden Ghost Boat presented several difficulties. Firstly, many players misunderstood its true weakness. It was neither the skeleton nor the boat itself, but rather the ghost fire bell positioned at the tip of the vessel. Secondly, the boss's most dangerous moment occurred during its attack sequence. It had the ability to control the surrounding water and unleash a devastating area of effect strike. The water pillars it summoned inflicted abnormally high damage, so much so that even advanced warriors clad in full silver armor could barely withstand a single hit. It was fortunate that the Shadow class possessed exceptionally high agility from the start. Otherwise, dodging such an attack would have been nearly impossible. Thirdly, after executing its AoE attack, the boss would summon 12 decaying water ghosts, each possessing the power of a silver-tier entity. Scanning his surroundings, Ching Fong continued his quiet analysis, recognizing the potential disaster that awaited unprepared parties. With 12 decaying water ghosts attacking relentlessly, most teams would descend into chaos. Worse still, the boss would summon additional ghosts every 3 minutes. If they weren't eliminated quickly, their numbers would spiral out of control, inevitably leading to a full party wipe. Taking a step back, Ching Fong smirked. However, he reminded himself that he had been invisible since the battle began. The summoned ghosts would be unable to detect him. All he needed to do was find the perfect angle to strike. Without hesitation, he unleashed instant Shadow Slash, eliminating all the monsters in a single, fluid attack. Lianqi Bushong, watching from a distance, was utterly astounded. She could hardly believe what she had just witnessed. In a dazed voice, she murmured in shock that this was the #1 ranked expert, Shadow. His strength was overwhelming, appearing and disappearing without a trace. The boss had already lost most of its health, without even getting a chance to counterattack. In the middle of the battle, Ching Fong suddenly spoke to her. His tone was calm yet cryptic as he stated that he was about to die. Barely able to hear him over the chaos, Lianqi Bushong blinked in confusion and asked what he had just said. Moving with breathtaking speed, Ching Fong clarified, instructing her not to do anything, simply to wait for his revival. When Lianqi Bushong heard him, she asked in shock, her expression filled with disbelief. She wanted to know why the expert, who seemingly had the upper hand, was reacting that way. She also demanded to know what Xiaoli was. Our hero looked at her and, instead of answering directly, questioned whether she was not Xiaoli herself. Lianqi Bushong immediately denied it, firmly insisting that she was colored Lianqi Bushong, not Xiaoli, and dismissing the name as something that sounded like it belonged to a dog. Unfazed by her response, our hero simply smirked and acknowledged it, referring to her as Xiaoli once again. Meanwhile, the team that had previously been defeated by him arrived, this time reinforced by a large number of additional players. Their leader was furious, his face contorted with anger as he vented his frustration. He admitted that he had been careless and reminisced about his past victories, boasting that he had once slain legends one after another with ease. Yet now he was being humiliated by a mere girl. Just then, one of his subordinates rushed over, panting, and urgently reported that he had located the girl. He pointed toward a cliff ahead and informed the boss that the loser Shadow was currently engaged in a solo challenge at the bottom of the cliff. Without hesitation, the boss barked out an order, declaring that he had gathered all his men this time and refusing to believe that he would fail to defeat his opponent. Without wasting another moment, he commanded his team to move out. At that moment, our hero found himself in a dire situation. His stealth skill had expired, leaving him vulnerable. He muttered to himself, analyzing the imminent threat. He recognized that the fourth challenge, and by far the most difficult one, was approaching. He noted that once the Golden Ghost Boat's health dropped to half, it would unleash a massive AoE soul surge that would immobilize him for 5 seconds. Given his current state, he knew he would be unable to dodge it. As he braced himself, the boss activated his skill, launching a large-scale attack. Drawing power from the swamp, he manipulated the water to strike our hero with a towering pillar. The impact was devastating, dealing -1059 HP damage. Our hero was defeated in battle, resulting in a loss of 326 years of untradeable lifespan and 1,087 days of tradable lifespan. Meanwhile, back at the cliff, the boss wielding the axe sneered at the sight before him. He ridiculed the so-called expert, scoffing at his arrogance for daring to challenge a superior boss alone. The leader of the team charged forward, his eyes gleaming with greed. He was astonished by the sheer size of the lifespan light orbs their fallen enemy had dropped, estimating them to contain at least 100 days' worth. With a battle cry, he urged his men to advance, pointing out that the boss had only half of its health remaining. He encouraged them to strike and finish it off directly, emphasizing that this was their chance to claim an enormous reward. He emphasized that the massive lifespan orb was theirs for the taking and, with an air of triumph, proclaimed that the so-called expert had deserved his fate. With unwavering determination, he announced that, as the underdog, he was going to devour the so-called big dog. However, a sudden skill was cast in their direction. The unexpected attack sent a wave of shock and fear through them, making them realize that this battle was not going to end in their favor. After their deaths, the group of players who had attempted to steal the hero's lifespan was sent back to Shell Town. One of them, wearing a frustrated expression, complained about the overwhelming power of the monster. He questioned how Shadow had managed to inflict so much damage, calling the situation unbelievable. Beside him, another player gritted his teeth and expressed his frustration, saying it was absurd. They had barely entered the swamp when they were instantly killed by what he described as a water pillar. A bald man with a scar over his eye, having overheard the conversation, joined in with an exasperated shout. He pointed out the sheer number of small mobs in the area and wondered how anyone was supposed to fight under such conditions. The boss of the group, visibly irritated, acknowledged their heavy losses. However, he refused to accept defeat and urged his team to continue. He insisted that they press forward, determined to prove that their failure had been a fluke. Meanwhile, the hero returned to the battlefield, where he discovered numerous lifespan orbs scattered around him. Wanting to understand what had transpired in his absence, he turned to Leeni and inquired about the orbs. Leeni, surprised by his quick return, greeted him and began to explain. She informed him that a group of players had recklessly charged in but had been wiped out by the water column. Realizing what had happened, the hero remarked that they had overestimated their own strength. He then fell into deep thought, recalling his past life. Speaking softly to himself, he reflected on how he had suffered greatly because of the ghost boat before. He knew that the golden ghost boat only used its immobilization skill once, making the remainder of the fight relatively easy. However, when its health dropped below half, it had a fixed chance of disappearing and reappearing elsewhere, making it difficult for the average player to defeat. With that knowledge in mind, he swiftly threw a poison dart at the boat's bell. As expected, the boss reacted by activating its skill once more. Seizing the opportunity, the hero used his own skill to vanish from the monster sight and began closing the distance between himself and the boss. Muttering under his breath, he noted that he had long since memorized its movement patterns. At the right moment, he unleashed an instant shadow slash, delivering a devastating blow. Just then, another boss, a man with brown hair, arrived at the battlefield with his team. One of his subordinates quickly pointed at the hero, shouting that he was already engaging the boss again. Irritated, the brown-haired boss sneered and declared that they would find the right moment to take both the hero and the boss down. Leeni, noticing their arrival, scoffed at their persistence. She muttered to herself that these fools kept returning to cause trouble. Knowing that the expert was close to defeating the boss, she resolved not to let them interfere. Without hesitation, she began chanting a spell. As soon as her incantation was complete, she struck the brown-haired boss and one of his teammates with a bolt of lightning, making them scream in pain. As the effect of the attack faded, the brown-haired boss, seething with anger, demanded to know who had dared attack him. One of his team members, still recovering, shakily pointed in Leeni's direction and identified her as the culprit. Upon realizing who it was, the boss's fury intensified. He bellowed that the woman was courting death and immediately ordered his team to eliminate her. Outnumbered, Leeni had no choice but to flee, screaming for help as the enemy players pursued her. The brown-haired boss, gripping his axe tightly, roared after her, vowing to kill her himself. Meanwhile, another team watched the battle unfold, their expressions filled with malice as they waited for the perfect opportunity to strike. Back on the battlefield, the hero pressed on in his fight against the golden ghost boat. As he rushed toward it, he observed that the boss was on the verge of defeat. He admitted to himself that, despite being only level 5, the Golden Ghost Boat was still challenging to take down alone. His damage output was too low, which had prolonged the battle and drawn the attention of unwanted spectators. Surveying his surroundings, he spotted a group of players positioned on a nearby cliff and suspected they were the ones who had recently perished. Another group loitered by the swamp, seemingly biding their time until he finished off the boss so they could ambush him and claim his loot. Moments later, the hero struck the final blow. A notification appeared before him, announcing his victory. It informed him that he had killed the Golden Ghost Boat, a gold-grade boss, and had been awarded 4,800 experience points. He had also reached level 8, gained 7 evolution points, and received 216 days worth of tradable lifespan. Realizing that he was now an even bigger target, he quickly activated his stealth skill. Rather than allowing the other teams to catch him off guard, he devised a plan to use the boss's dropped loot as bait, luring them out before eliminating them. Shortly after, news of his achievement spread throughout Shelltown. The server-wide announcement declared that a player named Shadow from Shelltown had become the first to defeat a gold-grade boss and had earned 3 reputation points. The revelation caused an uproar among the players. One individual, his face tense with anxiety, questioned aloud who this Shadow was and marveled at his strength. Another, equally astonished, speculated on whether the boss had truly been gold-grade and wondered which city within Shelltown the mysterious player hailed from. A bald man confidently asserted that the first person to slay such a high-tier boss had to be from their Great Han City. Even Wong Ming was taken aback by the hero's rapid progress. He reflected on the fact that not long ago, Shadow had been battling a bronze boss alone. Now, within such a short span, he had already slain a gold-grade boss single-handedly. He found the gap between Shadow and ordinary players staggering. Deep in thought, our hero's sister murmured to herself, with a serious expression, that Shadow was undoubtedly the strongest. She believed that if he could carry her and help her level up, she would finally have the chance to reunite with brother Song Fei. Back at the swamp, the lurking team prepared to set their plan into motion. Their leader, grinning wickedly, speculated that Shadow had used his invisibility skill to evade them. He pointed out that the loot remained untouched, suggesting that Shadow was being cautious. Turning to one of his subordinates, he ordered Guang to use his skill to locate their target. He instructed his team to kill Shadow and claim the gold boss loot for themselves. Guang obeyed without hesitation, pulling out his bow and releasing an arrow imbued with his unique skill, Phantom Horned Eagle. The arrow soared into the sky, summoning a spectral eagle designed to expose anyone using invisibility skills. From a distance, the hero immediately recognized the technique and smirked. He had not expected the hunters to learn an anti-invisibility skill so quickly. He understood why they were so confident in their ability to kill him and steal his rewards. However, he knew that his assassin class provided him with an additional level of invisibility, rendering a level 1 anti-invisibility skill useless against him. After scanning the area and finding no trace of Shadow, Guang turned to his boss and reported that their target had disappeared. He concluded that Shadow must have fled upon seeing their numbers. A voice from behind the boss scoffed at the situation, remarking that at least Shadow was smart enough to run. Without wasting a moment, the leader and his team rushed forward to collect the loot. However, before they could reach it, the hero silently activated his Shadow ability, sneaking up behind them. In an instant, a flurry of blue light slashes cut through their bodies, reducing them to pieces. Once the fight ended, the hero surveyed the now silent battlefield and remarked that the area had finally quieted down. He briefly wondered where Leeni had run off to but decided he would search for her later. Shifting his focus back to himself, he manifested his greedy hand skill, realizing he had accumulated enough evolution points to upgrade it. Opting to enhance the skill before collecting his loot, he initiated the upgrade process. A system notification promptly appeared, informing him that Greedy Hand had been upgraded from Diamond to Epic. The updated skill, classified as Assassin type, could be used on monster corpses, now boasting a 220% to 300% chance of obtaining an extra loot drop, with the extra loot guaranteed to be one tier higher. Reading the upgrade details, the hero muttered to himself, clearly excited by the 100% success rate. He resolved to gather all the scattered lifespan light orbs and absorb them at once to maximize his chances of obtaining valuable rewards. Activating Greedy Hand, he watched as multiple system messages appeared before him. You have used the skill Greedy Hand. Received 7 evolution points. Times 3. Received 216 days of tradable lifespan. Times 3. Received special item Ghostfire Bell. Times 2. Seeing the unexpected reward, the hero was momentarily stunned. He hadn't anticipated obtaining 2 Ghostfire Bells at once. A system prompt followed, providing details about the item. Ghostfire Bell, special item passive effect, Soul Absorb. Increases lifespan drops from monsters by 20%. Stacking bonus. Having 2 Ghostfire Bells doubles this effect. Active skill, Soul Shock. Shaking the Ghostfire Bell immobilizes all enemies within a 100-meter radius for 3 seconds. Cooldown, 521 seconds. At that moment, our hero remarked that the Ghostfire Bell is classified as an item rather than equipment, meaning it does not occupy any equipment slots. Additionally, 2 Ghostfire Bells only take up a single inventory slot, making them highly convenient. After reviewing the item's description, the hero noted with satisfaction that since the Ghostfire Bell did not take up an equipment slot, it granted a significant advantage without limiting his gear choices. Just as he was about to continue, a frantic cry for help broke through his thoughts. Lienqi's desperate voice rang out through the system's communication forum as she pleaded for assistance. Recognizing the urgency in her tone, the hero's expression turned serious. Without hesitation, he immediately responded, asking for her location. Lienqi was unable to respond to the hero as she was surrounded by a group of hostile players. At that moment, the boss sneered at her, mocking her for her strong resistance. One of the boss's subordinates pointed out that there was nowhere for her to escape. He urged her to surrender quietly, assuring her that they would make her feel so good she would believe she had ascended to heaven. With no other options left, Lienqi made a desperate decision. She leaped off the cliff, intending to end her life in the game. Since she had plenty of lifespan remaining, she knew she wouldn't truly die. As her body slowly disappeared, the brown-haired boss exclaimed in surprise that she had actually jumped, noting that she was quite resolute. Meanwhile, the hero received a voice transmission from Lienqi. She informed him that there was no need to save her anymore, as she had already died and respawned in town. She described the experience as painful but reassured him that all of their party's tradable lifespan was with Captain Wong Ming. After listening to her explanation, the hero reassured her that he would bring her belongings and asked her to wait for him there. Lienqi's voice carried excitement as she responded enthusiastically, expressing her gratitude and acknowledging his effort. Clenching his fist, the hero smirked, realizing that he had gained significantly this time. His tradable lifespan had reached 3,115 days, and he had also accumulated 21 evolution points. Without hesitation, he instructed the system to evolve his skill Greedy Hand. At that moment, a system notification appeared, informing him that Greedy Hand had reached the epic grade, and that further evolution would now require 10 times the evolution points. The system then prompted him to confirm whether he wished to spend 210 evolution points to evolve the skill. The hero's eyes widened in surprise as he realized that evolving the skill would demand a significant amount of resources. He acknowledged that higher skill levels required more evolution points and decided to prioritize upgrading his attack skills instead. He reasoned that increasing his damage output would allow him to take on stronger bosses and obtain better loot. Following his decision, another system window appeared, indicating that Instant Shadow Slash had been upgraded from Platinum to Diamond. The upgrade extended the dash distance from 21 to 27 meters, increased stealth duration from 7 to 9 seconds, and enhanced the number of slashes per attack from 5 to 7. Additionally, the slash length was increased from 3.1 to 4.1 meters, and each slash now inflicted an additional 200 to 300 damage. Shortly after, another notification followed, stating that he had used 10 evolution points, leaving him with only 3 remaining. The system also confirmed that his initial skill, Backstab Enhancement, had been upgraded from normal to gold, improving its effect so that a backstab attack would now deal 15% to 30% more damage. A satisfied smile crossed the hero's face as he reflected on his upgrades. He noted that after evolving Instant Shadow Slash twice, its damage had effectively doubled. Even outside of stealth mode, he could now deal 3,000 damage. If he managed to break stealth and execute a backstab, the total damage from 7 slashes would amount to between 6,000 and 7,000. As he scrolled through his system panel, he analyzed his loot. He recalled that gold-tier bosses typically drop 2 to 4 silver-grade equipment items, with a small chance of dropping gold-grade items. However, due to the effect of Greedy Hand, he had obtained 11 gold-tier equipment pieces and skill books, along with 2 platinum-tier equipment pieces and 1 skill book. He concluded that the haul was impressive, noting that 3 of the items could even be used by assassins. Following that, 2 system notifications appeared. Ghost Ship Dual Blades, Platinum. Class, Assassin. Attack, plus 136. Agility, plus 22. Attack Speed, plus 24%. Armor Penetration, plus 17. Equipment Requirement, Level 5. Unique Effect, every normal attack deals damage twice. After reviewing the description and stats of his new weapon, the hero remarked that its special effect was not particularly useful since he primarily relied on his skills to deal damage. However, he acknowledged that the weapon's high base attack, along with the additional 22 agility points, made it valuable. He also noted that the increase in attack speed would enhance spellcasting speed and reduce skill cooldown time, making it not entirely useless. As for its armor-piercing properties, he considered the benefits to be quite significant. Shortly after, another system notification appeared. Ghostfire Leather Armor Gold. Physical Defense, plus 25. Fire Elemental Resistance, plus 50. Damage Block, plus 14. Health, plus 419. Equipment Requirements, Level 5. After equipping the new armor, the hero excitedly observed that although leveling up had not yet increased his constitution, his current health had reached 350. This piece of equipment alone had directly boosted his health by 419 points. With it equipped, he realized that most players would now be unable to break through his defense. Without hesitation, he commanded the system to make his defensive gear invisible and restore his appearance to that of a standard assassin. He then explained his reasoning. By doing so, other players would be unable to gauge his equipment just by looking at him. Instead, they would have to manually inspect his gear through the game's interface. Just then, another notification popped up. Skill book acquired. Ghost Shadow Blur, Gold Tier. Class, Assassin. Effect, passive grants a 15% dodge rate. When a dodge is successfully activated, the user becomes immune to all damage. Satisfied with the new skill, the hero remarked that he had finally obtained a survival skill for assassins. However, he recalled that the skill was generally considered weak due to the difficulty of increasing dodge rate in the game. Players who invested heavily in dodge often had lower stats in other areas, making them more vulnerable. If the dodge effect failed to activate, they would be in serious danger. As a faint yellow energy glow surrounded his body, the hero confidently declared that he was different from other players. Unlike them, he had the ability to evolve skills infinitely. This meant he could raise his dodge rate without sacrificing any other attributes, making it purely advantageous for him. After finishing his preparations, the hero decided to return to Shell Town. He noted that the remaining loot consisted of equipment for warriors, priests, and archers, which he planned to sell at a 10% discount to Wong Ming. Although Wong Ming and his team couldn't afford the items at the moment, the hero was certain that, given Wong Ming's personality, he would be able to sell them on credit. Reflecting on his recent success, he acknowledged that this major upgrade was all thanks to Leeni. Without her help, he wouldn't have discovered the level 5 golden ghost ship to raid. He made a mental note to properly thank her later. As he made his way out of the forest, the hero unexpectedly encountered the brown-haired boss from earlier. The latter was utterly shocked to see the hero standing before him. Without wasting a moment, fear overtook him, and he immediately turned to flee. His team members, equally terrified, followed suit, their faces filled with panic. One of them screamed in horror, shouting that it was Shadow and ordering everyone to run. Another yelled desperately for the hero to stay away from them. At that moment, the hero activated instant Shadow Slash, moving with lightning speed as he cut down the fleeing enemies, slicing them to pieces. Seeing what had happened to his team members, the brown-haired boss was completely overwhelmed by fear. Dropping to his knees, he began pleading desperately for his life, insisting that he had been wrong and promising never to repeat his actions. He begged the hero to spare him, addressing him as Brother Expert, and revealing that he had less than a year of lifespan remaining. The hero met his gaze with cold, unyielding eyes and questioned whether the man had ever considered his own fate before attacking others. Without hesitation, he flicked a poison dart straight into the boss's forehead. The man let out a blood-curdling scream, writhing in agony until his life force was completely drained away. At that moment, a system notification appeared, informing the hero that he had killed too many players and had therefore received 1 layer of the killer status. It further stated that, at the first layer, 75% of his current lifespan would be lost upon death. As a red and dark aura began emanating from his body, the hero remained unfazed and muttered to himself that it did not matter. He reassured himself that, with the Ghostfire Bell in his possession, even if he died once, he would not lose any lifespan. Upon arriving in Shell Town, he was met with stunned gazes as townspeople whispered among themselves, their expressions filled with awe and fear. One long-haired man exclaimed that Shadow had returned after killing a gold-tier boss. Another person questioned why he was not wearing high-tier gear, while a third scoffed, speculating that he must have exploited a bug to solo the boss and, as a result, received no loot. Just then, a familiar voice called out to the hero, the leader of the group that had previously attempted to steal his loot, but had instead been wiped out by him, approached with an awkward smile. He politely asked the hero to wait before extending a skill book toward him. Acknowledging their mistake earlier, he explained that the book was an assassin-class skill, which they had purchased using their lifespan. He then requested that the hero accept it and consider it a way of settling their conflict. The system immediately displayed the book's details, revealing it to be Impale, Common, an assassin-class, single-target skill. It granted an additional 20 points of attack upon landing a hit and inflicted a 2-second stun, with a cooldown of 22 seconds. Examining the book, the hero noted that it was a control skill. Without further comment, he accepted it and turned to leave, stating that he would forget what had happened between them. However, among the team members, one was visibly displeased. He turned to their leader, Shiau, and voiced his frustration, arguing that it was humiliating to give a skill book to the very person who had killed them. He insisted that, with their connections, they could easily gather enough people to overwhelm Shadow. Another teammate quickly agreed, questioning why they were allowing themselves to be treated in such a way. Shiau's expression darkened as he silenced them with a cold glare. He stated that they understood nothing. He pointed out that Shadow was growing at an unbelievable speed despite operating alone, meaning he was likely hiding a massive secret. If they could locate him in real life and capture him, not only would they uncover that secret, but they could also force him to become their slave, farming lifespan for them. One of the team members, thrilled by the idea, praised Shiau for his brilliant plan. With an indifferent expression, Shiau went on to elaborate on his strategy. He explained that he would have his family send a woman to get close to Shadow and extract information from him. He remarked that, based on the hero's voice, he did not seem to be part of their usual circles and was likely an outsider. Assuming that Shadow was poor, he was convinced that sending a beautiful woman would be enough to lure him into their trap. Meanwhile, the the hero met Lienshi and instructed her to accept the trade, offering to give her some items. Excited, Lienshi responded with gratitude but corrected him, saying that her name was Lienshi, not Xiaoli. After equipping the new items, her face lit up with joy as she exclaimed how incredible they were. She noted that her power would rise rapidly, with her damage output multiplying several times over and her mana regeneration more than doubling. She eagerly thanked the hero again. Remaining calm, the hero simply replied that he was only following their arrangement and then requested the space ring. Without hesitation, Lienshi retrieved the ring from her inventory and handed it to him. As she did, she suddenly recalled something and shared it with the hero. She explained that while escaping through the forest earlier, she had stumbled upon an underground cave that seemed to be the entrance to some ruins. She then asked if he was interested. The hero was taken aback by this revelation and muttered to himself. First, it had been the Golden Ghost ship and now a ruin entrance. He reflected that befriending Lienshi had proven to be highly beneficial. He also acknowledged that sincerity was mutual. If he hadn't given her 2 pieces of gold-tier equipment, she might not have shared this information with him. Glancing at the space ring, he noted with satisfaction that his inventory space had now increased to 27 slots. After that, he turned to Lienshi and asked where Wong Ming was, mentioning that he planned to sell them some items before heading to the ruins she had discovered. Lienshi replied that the captain and the others had gone to train a new priest and wouldn't be back anytime soon. Following that, she brought up the map on the screen and pointed to a marked location, explaining that she had already marked the entrance to the ruins. She described how she had hidden there while escaping, moving a stone slab behind some bushes to enter. However, she had barely taken a few steps inside before she heard terrifying screams from within. Overcome with fear, she had fled immediately, which had ultimately led to her capture by those other players. Without wasting a second, the hero activated his movement skill, vanishing from her sight as he assured her that he understood. He told her that he would head to the ruins immediately and trade with Wong Ming when he returned. As he sped toward the ruins, his body emitted a black smoke-like aura. Speaking to himself, he mused that he had originally planned to grind until he reached level 10, but with a ruin available, grinding was no longer necessary. He recalled that beginner towns typically had 3 types of ruins: tombs, cursed ruins, and temples of faith. Regardless of which type this was, he knew that the smaller monsters inside would be at least bronze tier, with the possibility of silver tier creatures as well. To him, they represented an endless source of lifespan and evolution points.